Hey, everybody. I'm Renee Hobbs, and welcome to Across the Generations. Here we are on a cold, at least here in New England, November day, but we are just delighted to have you here for this series.
I'm Renee Hobbs, and
hold on
welcome
here.
to Across the Generations.
What am I doing wrong here?
Here we are on
Okay, so I guess it's live streaming now on YouTube, and you're here because you're part of our online global community. Put a thumb up if you've been to this game before. This is not your first rodeo. Thank you for being here for the second or third or fourth time. But I also want a thumbs up now from the folks who are coming for the first time. If you're joining us for the first time, will you give us a little shout out and we're so happy you're here. We've been having a conversation every 2 weeks about the developmental trajectory of media literacy. We started with preschoolers, and Faith Rogo gave us some big insights. Then we went to Kristen Zimke, who talked about media literacy in the elementary grades. And today we're here to talk with Troy Hicks about media school during the middle school years, a most tender and important time. The format of the Across the Webinar series is simple. We start with an emotional check-in. The presenter has about 30 minutes or so to engage us in some learning and some dialogue. Then we have a small group discussion, and then we end up coming together as a whole group. But let's start, shall we, with our emotional check-in. Here's the famous mood meter. The famous mood meter. We really love the mood meter. Give me a thumbs up if you can see the mood meter on your screen right now. Basically, what I'd like you to do is use your digital annotation tool and indicate or tell us which of these adjectives, it might be one, it might be two, it might be more, are you feeling today? So I'm going to use my little draw tool and step on the fact that I am feeling a little bit restless today. The end of the semester is making me feel a little bit restful, but you know that music? I played that music because that's putting me in an easygoing mood. So that's why I picked the adjectives I chose. Open your microphone and tell us which of these adjectives is most relevant to your mood right now and why. And who needs help annotating the Zoom? Let me know if you need help and we'll talk you through that. Lucas, I see you there, my friend. Which of these adjectives did you choose and why?
Just plopped a star on optimistic, honestly, because if you'd asked me yesterday about the 3-week sprint to winter break, I would have said it's impossible, it can't be done. And after 24 hours of starting the sprint, I now decide it actually can be done. So I'm here to hear what Troy has to say. Always enjoy what Troy's insights, and I'm feeling good.
Thank you for making time for us in a very busy week. Is that Jamie Rue? Is that Alicia Haywood I see? Alicia, can you open your microphone and tell us which of these adjectives is most relevant to where you're feeling it today?
Hi, Renee. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you sound good.
Very good. So I chose calm. I put a little X over calm because that's what I want to believe is true about the way I'm feeling today. I have every reason not to be calm. End of the semester. It's been a tough one. It has been a tough one. I've been down a lot the past 4 months. So I'm grateful to be here, grateful for the reminder notification about today. And just looking forward to engaging in some media literacy conversation today.
We're glad you're here. Donna Alverman, I see you on the call. Can you open your microphone and tell us which of these adjectives is making for your mood today? Where are you at on the mood meter? Unmute your microphone and tell us where you're at. Julie Smith, you're next. As Donna gets her microphone unmuted, where are you at on the mood meter today, my friend? Hey, Julie.
Hi, everybody.
Where are you on the mood meter, my friend?
I'm feeling lively, but I think it's because I just slammed 2 Diet Cokes. It has nothing to do with the end of the semester or my to-do list. It's all about the chemicals, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that right now.
Thanks for sharing. Next up, Donna, and then Ralph. I'd love to hear from you. Where are you on the mood meter? Wherever you are,
Yeah.
even if you're feeling alienated, miserable, disheartened, fatigued, we're with you.
No,
Share
I'm
us
not,
where you're at and why.
I'm not feeling alienated, but
Thank
I
goodness.
am really, really congested. It's really dry down here, and I'm suffering from allergies. So, and also just coming off another meeting, but I'm here. I'm so glad. This looks like a really good series of meetings you're having.
We're really glad you're here. Ralph, you're next. Which of these emotion words captures where you're at today?
Hi, I'm can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
I'm kind of excited because I just spent some time watching reels from my students and I loved their work. They had some amazing work there. So it was a good morning to see what kind of work they're doing, and we had some great conversations and a lot of laughs about what some people were trying to do with their work. These are grad seniors, so it was really exciting.
Aren't you lucky? Aren't you lucky to be able to enjoy the end of the semester student work that's coming in and appreciate student creativity? Okay, so Troy, I know you need no introduction because you are such a dear and valued member of the Media Education Lab, and we know that you were super busy at NCTE in the last week, but we also think that your insights on thinking about media literacy in relation to the middle grades is super important, and we're just so thrilled that you're part of this Across the Generations series. If you're tweeting now, we are using the hashtag GenerationsML because Troy's going to drop some powerful ideas on us and it's going to rock our world. So please feel free to share with your social media community using that hashtag GenerationsML. Take it away, Troy.
All right. Thanks so much, Renee. So good to see familiar faces. Some of you I saw at NCTE a few weeks ago. And yes, Carl, I think multitasking needs to go on Renee's mood meter slide. So again, thank you for this invitation to be here. I'm very much looking forward to chatting with you about middle schoolers and media literacy. I begin this conversation by saying, I am not an adolescent psychologist. I do not pretend to understand everything that there is to know about middle schoolers, even though I've raised a few of them myself, and they seem to have made it to adulthood or young adulthood at the very least. But I'm hoping this will be dialogic and conversational, as all Media Education Lab events are, and I'll have a framework that I'll use to help lead us into that. So when Renee asked me to put this together, I was trying to figure out what happens for middle school kids. What are the verbs? Well, they're fitting in, they're standing out, and they're building an identity. And so that's where I started creating this slide deck and where I hope our conversation goes today. I will share a link to this Canva presentation before we all get said and done at the end of the session as well. So you'll have the slides later. All right. So again, as Renee said, I've been lucky to be affiliated with the Media Education Lab for a number of years, and most recently became an affiliate faculty member earlier this year. So thanks to Renee for that. And all the colleagues that I collaborate with through the Media Education Lab. I am Hicks pretty much everywhere, on Twitter, my blog and website. Also, my Gmail is hickstro@gmail.com if you want to reach out after the webinar. I'm absolutely interested in hearing what you have to say and how I can be helpful in the future as you think about ways to integrate digital media literacy with your students. So with that being said, we're going to jump right in. I'm going to rely here in just a moment on a few things from one of my other trusted sources besides the Media Education Lab, and that's Common Sense Media, because they do incredible work, and they created a series of resources a few years ago related to teens and media literacy and digital literacy, and they have their annual Common Sense census that they bring out. But what I'd like to do is just kind of foreground and say, let's just look for a moment. Let's think about who our teens are and the ways in which they engage with media. And if you would like to drop a note in the chat, perhaps you are a parent of teens, perhaps you have other teens in your life, perhaps you are an educator or a librarian or in some other way connected with the education of young people. What in the world are they doing? How are they engaging with media? And I would encourage you to drop notes in the chat. Like, yes, you could just say TikTok, right? But what are they doing with TikTok? Like, think of the verbs again. What are they watching? Are they creating? Are they being entertained? Are they the entertainers? Think about what is actually happening beyond just the tool. So great, we're already seeing some things. They're connecting, they're watching, they're participating, they're emulating, they're dancing, learning, they're being curious, they're relaxing, they're tuning in, they're copying and recreating, they're showcasing, they're scrolling, the endless scroll, we are all scrolling. They're learning about trends, they're watching their peers. Wow, great, wonderful set of verbs. Sharing, making friends, playing, wonderful. I hope we can capture some of these verbs. I was thinking about doing a Mentimeter, but I didn't want to go in too many directions right at the start of our webinar. So we'll come back and maybe grab some of those verbs later on. But we think about what they're doing outside of school, and then we think about what they're doing inside of school. And Donna and Carl and others from my NCTE community have been thinking about these types of things for a long time, as I know others who have joined these webinars in the past. How do we bring those out of school literacies to school and invite students to do this in thoughtful, creative, and critical ways? And that is our task today. We're going to be looking at the profiles, fictional profiles, but profiles of these 4 teens, who I'll introduce you to again in a couple slides. And then our group breakout activity today is going to be a little more structured than perhaps a general conversation like we may have had in other webinars in the past. And I'll share a Google Doc with you that will help you and your group move through that task. But first, just a little bit more context, a little bit more background. And again, we're going to rely again on Common Sense Media here in just a moment. As you can see, I've got a few things pulled up in tabs ready to go here. Then we're going to imagine those profiles of those 4 teenagers. And then during the breakout discussion, and again, I'll share a link for this in just a few minutes, we will have a heuristic, a tool for thinking through your discussion in your small groups. But I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. We'll get there in a minute. And then, of course, we'll come back at the end and we'll have a large group conversation about implications for home, school, and civic education. So a couple quick things. We don't need to belabor this. Anybody that's here today is probably here because, again, you have middle schoolers in your life and you know these things intimately. And we, of course, all have our own personal experiences. These challenges, in addition to dancing and emulating and all the things we were just saying a moment ago, they're trying to fit in. They're trying to gain peer acceptance as a primary objective of youth in the, I would say, middle and high school context, to adapt that quote just slightly. This may, as we all know, it probably be more important than anything else in their lives, including school and home. They're also trying to stand out. So at the same time, there's this tension between trying to fit in and be part of that peer group, but also to have some kind of level of autonomy and individuality. How do they do that? What are they trying to do? How are they trying to put that little bit of distance between parents and caregivers and other family members, and also become more connected to sports and arts and other activities in their lives? And then through all of that, through this tension, this back and forth, they are, of course, building their own identity in that sense of self. They are trying to figure out who they are, what they can do, where they fit, how they contribute, what they want to do and be in the world. And so again, it's very challenging times. We don't need to belabor that point, and we're not going to. We're going to start looking and thinking about what teens can do. Suffice it to say, it's a unique time in their lives. It's a unique time for us as mentors to provide them with opportunities for conversation and media creation. All right, so I wanted to draw really quickly from the team that Renee led through NCTE just a little over a year ago, thinking about the 2 areas for focus. What do we need to do as, especially English language arts educators, but all educators and parents? We need to be thinking about pedagogies of inquiry. How do we invite students to be critical and creative in these new ways, focusing on not only consumption, but media production? And then also, how do we get them to do this in ways that are more robust, moving towards social justice, so they can understand their place in the world, but also raise and elevate their own voices? And of course, for anyone who's been watching the news this week, we're seeing it in China right now. This stuff is happening. It has happened. Greta Thunberg. I mean, we can name thousands of names of youth across generations that have made a difference, and what are we going to do to help encourage our own youth make this kind of difference as well. So I just draw those from that media literacy report. All right, we are going to do kind of two things simultaneously. One, I'm going to grab the link to the infographic so you can on your own begin perusing this whole report if you would like. So there's a link to this infographic. Now this was from their 2021 report, and this video we're about to watch was actually from 2019. Remember, way back in those pre-pandemic days, but I think it's still highly relevant. And what I'd really appreciate you thinking about is it takes a bit of a shift in the middle of the video. So let's think about what you're hearing from these youth in the video. Think about what you see in the infographic. And if you'd really like, you can click right into the entire report and you can try to peruse that in the next minute or 3 minutes and 33 seconds, or however long the report is. But as you're listening, as you're watching, as you're viewing, feel free to add a few notes in the chat. What is it that you notice? What is it that you see? And we'll go from there. Please let me know if the sound is okay.
Sometimes when I'm sad, I like to communicate with my friends on social media, and that really makes me feel less lonely.
The thing I love most about social media is to stay connected with my friends.
Over spring break, I broke my phone and I didn't have it for a week, and everyone thought I was dead. It was just so impossible to contact me.
I do get like a little stressed, like when there's this huge thing that's awesome and I can't be a part of it. And that's kind of worrying. That gets like worrying sometimes.
After getting my phone, in-person interactions, it's been replaced by text and call and FaceTime.
I'm always with my friends, but when I'm not with them, I'm always talking to them on social media.
It's a lot easier to just meet up with people wherever you are, as long as you have a way to connect with them. So whether that be texting or Snapchatting or calling them, it's really easy instead of having to like communicate through your parents.
I would say it's very normal in today's world to be hanging out with people that you're close to or even not so close to, and have moments where you're both just silently sitting on your phones.
I don't really feel pressured by my friends directly to be on social media, but sometimes I'll see them get out their phone and like start looking at Instagram or something.
I think when it fills that space, there's nothing inherently wrong with it, but I do see now that when that's the extent of what you do with a person, that's when it starts to bother me.
Me and my friends are on our phones a lot at the same time. I honestly don't really know why we do it while we're together, but we do.
I get like stressed out, like, oh, I'm probably missing this big thing and I can't comment on it or anything like that.
It always looks more fun when you're not there.
Even if they're doing homework, it makes it seem like they're having a great time doing whatever they're doing.
I generally don't really get that jealous of when I see like photos of my friends together. That doesn't really bug me. I definitely do check it, and sometimes I get sidetracked.
It still sucks to see that 3 or 4 of your friends are out going shopping and you're not there.
People that I know actually worry about how many followers they have compared to other people, and like if they're not getting as many messages, and it just causes so much unnecessary drama, I would say.
Followers isn't like what you should be worrying about. It should be worrying about like being with your friends and things that you like to do, like basketball or reading or other things.
If you are on your phone all the time, you will just tend to feel more lonely, low energy.
I sometimes wish that it wasn't a thing so I could just hang out with my friends and play basketball or do other things like that.
Right, there are great ideas coming through in the chat. And I was just saying, none of them seem willing to ask their friends to put their phones down. Throw that in the chat here as well. And of course, we're raising all kinds of important questions and issues, thinking about their situational awareness, where they're at, what they're doing, and what they may or may not be doing. So again, in the spirit of sticking with the verbs, we're noticing how they felt left out, but they're not necessarily willing to take action, or they continue to participate. And so it's this constant tension between fitting in and standing out, and how to approach in a positive, productive good peer pressure kind of way their friends to be able to engage more fully. So again, you have the link, and again, I'll put the slides to the Canva here in before we all go today, but you have the Common Sense report. I wanted to just highlight a few other types of elements that have come up. So this is from the most recent Common Sense census, and they tried to do some analysis specifically between what they had noticed pre-pandemic and post-pandemic. And so I will just read a couple of the quotes from the key stats, and you can again dig into that report. So they noted that when looked at in more detail by individual ages, about 3 in 10 of all 8 and 9-year-olds have their own smartphones. So 3 in 10. Among 12 to 13-year-olds, about 7 in 10. So there's that tipping point somewhere in the early tween years. And then among those ages 14 or older, about 9 in 10 have their own smartphones. Now, again, we all recognize that there are still digital divides in equity and access. And yet at the same time, through their reporting and their surveying, and I think this is reflected to some extent in Pew Internet's research and other sources, by far, the vast majority of our teens have access to smartphones. Now, they may not have unlimited data still, but they definitely have access to the devices. And another key element that came out of the report that I found pretty useful is that one special affordance of digital technology is that it allows young people to become content producers instead of just consumers. This is obviously a theme for anyone that's followed Renee in the Media Education Lab, or going back to Henry Jenkins and the idea of a participatory culture, or follow Donna's work or others who are on the call today. We know we want to put teens into the role of being producers, but here's the catch. Although these uses are very important to many young people, they are not the activities tweens and teens do anywhere near as frequently or for anywhere near as long as they watch, play, or scroll through content created by others. And so I always find that interesting. Anyone who's been in a workshop with me before has probably seen me do this. So I apologize if I'm repeating myself, but it's this, balance between the content creation and content consumption. Where are we at when we look at our speedometer? Are we all the way on the floor towards consumption, or are we all the way on the floor towards creation? And I often joke with my own kids, and they probably get sick of me doing this. I'm like, oh, wow, you have the sum of human knowledge in the palm of your hand. What are you watching on TikTok right now? And not to say that TikTok is not important and can be a cultural touchstone, or that a meme that they just saw, or a tweet, or a snap, or whatever the Be Real, whatever the new thing is. It's that they're the ones consuming and not necessarily creating. And I try to keep pushing them towards that idea of creation, though that too is risky. And we need to think about what kinds of risks adolescents are taking, again, as they're trying to fit in and stand out and be unique and form their identities. There's lots of great stuff going on in the chat. I'm going to take a breath here for just a moment. Renee, did you see anything that we should highlight from the chat before we move forward?
I am absolutely fascinated by the chat, and I think I want to call out Alex. Alex, can you share a little bit the point you made in the chat? Alec Wozniak.
Hi. Yeah, I said we make kids take driving lessons for like a lot of hours, and in Massachusetts, their parents also have to go to a session that's just for the parents also, so they know some of the same stuff. But we hand them devices and just assume that they know what to do. And then we get angry with them when they do the wrong things, or that they don't know how to do certain things. It sort of goes back to that whole issue where there's all these people sitting around saying, oh, the kids are digital natives. It's like, yes, I am a native speaker in English, but it doesn't mean I know how to read and write in the language until somebody teaches me. So I don't know. I bet a lot of parents would love it if there was a way to, provide some sorts of, lessons, not to do alone, even to do in a group, because they would prefer it, about some of the great things you can do with phones and some of the things you need to know about and be aware of before the parents hand the phones over to them or something,
I really appreciate you saying that, and you made me think of another resource, this Common Sense Family Media Agreement that can be adapted for classrooms, just that whole idea of mentoring the to, with, and by. how am I going to share with you what I'm doing? How are we going to do this together? How am I going to mentor you? So yeah, thank you so much, Alex.
Although I'm just going to jump in one thing, like seeing that little bit of the family media thing, it's all about what I'm not going to do. And I think generally in the classroom, and as parents too, usually you want to focus on what are the things you can and should do and put that front and center before, because it just feels like there's so much stuff with parents and teachers about kids interacting with devices that's kind of this scolding what you shouldn't be doing stuff.
Right. How do we frame it in a proactive, productive way? Which I think actually ties right into the whole theme of what we're getting at today in our activity is how do we help students see themselves as media creators and bring that critical perspective to that. And then this goes to a comment, I think it was Kate that just asked a moment ago in the chat, I wonder how we're defining creation. And I think that is a key question too. And when we get back to our teens here in a couple slides, you're going to see I've made one of them a YouTuber and one of them a TikToker. And I want to think about those nuances because we could say they both make videos, but they're very probably different kinds of videos and what that production is like. So wonderful. All right, well, I'm going to keep moving forward for now. This is just, the chat is just super rich and I really appreciate everyone joining in. And I want to get you to these breakout rooms fast so we can keep going. All right, so here's what's going to happen. If it's more convenient for you to grab a different device and scan, you've got the bit.ly there. There's also a short link, and I'm going to grab just a direct view only link here. Now, you may all want to bring this document up on your screens, but in a moment when Renee shifts us to breakout rooms, one person will go ahead and make a copy of the document. So you'll go to File and make your own copy, and then you can share that copy of it with your group. So for instance, I would say make a copy, and I would say, Troy's group copy of the Mel webinar handout. So you'll get to that in a moment. We'll just bring that back up with the QR code and the bit.ly short link, and you also have the link in the chat. And again, I'll give you the slides link later on. But here's what I'm going to invite you to do. In just a few moments, you're going to be in a breakout room for about 15 minutes, a little bit longer than maybe what we normally do in our Media Education Lab breakout rooms. But you have this structured task. And what I'm asking you to do quickly is that you and your group are going to pick either from Ara, Brianna, Colin, or Dominique. You're going to pick one of these teens, and then we're going to go through a thinking process where we're thinking about who are they as producers and what could we do to spur a further conversation? What might we do to bring their media literacy lives to life inside school? So let me show you what that's going to look like. And again, if you need a link, please let us know in the chat. My guess is that most people probably have it by now, but Renee's monitoring the chat for me too. All right, so here's what's going to happen. Again, someone in your group is going to go to File, is going to go make a copy, and then you can share that copy with the rest of your breakout room. You're going to very, very quickly, I'm going to say even less, probably not more than about 30 seconds on each teen. Like you've got to make a decision really quickly. What do we notice? What do we think about Ara? What do we think about Brianna? What do we think about Colin? What do we think about Dominique? Then you're going to pick one and you're going to say, all right, we're going to focus our attention on Brianna. And you are going to imagine that you're the parent or caregiver or a teacher, or I should say librarian or other media specialist. I apologize for not putting that in the digital handout here. And you're going to consider the ways that you can have some conversations with this teen about media literacy. And what I've tried to do is really frame this for you around our 3 themes of the webinar: fitting in, standing out, and building identity. And then what is it that you see and notice about how they might be using and owning and using their devices? What are they doing in terms of creating versus consuming? And then we're going to go back to our favorite 5 key questions. And I've just reframed those 5 key questions slightly. So rather than asking the question of the media, you're asking the question of the student. So who am I as a content creator? How do I define myself as a content creator? What techniques do I use to attract my readers and viewers and listeners' attention? How might my different audiences see this in a different way, and so forth. Now, again, just to be really clear here, by fan fiction writer Anna. I'm thinking this is someone who goes on to fan fiction websites, reads fan fiction about whatever her particular fandom is, and then also writes her own fan fiction. For Brianna, as a YouTuber, I'm imagining that this is a person who is creating longer videos, 3, 5, 7, 10-minute videos in a vlog style with lots of jumps and camera cuts and sound effects and things like that, probably some B-roll footage, but really takes, an hour to produce a 2-minute video, right? This is someone who's taking a long time. Colin's a gamer. You pick the game, whether it's Fortnite or Minecraft or whatever, you all can talk about that amongst yourselves. And then Dominique, as the TikToker, I contrast her from Brianna in the sense that this is someone who's really using the affordances of TikToks, who is really thinking about music and thinking about parody and satire. And if you are not familiar with what TikToks are like, I'm going to drop one more Common Sense Media link in the chat for your group about TikTok. So you can kind of understand, these are the short form, music inspired sound effects, emojis, things like that. So a little bit different than what we might see as a vlog style on YouTube. Does that make sense for everyone? I know, Renee, usually we do kind of a check for understanding before we send people out to breakout rooms. So I don't know if we want to call on someone to make sure they understand the breakout room task.
I like that idea. Let's see if we'll invite somebody to explain in your own words. What are we going to do in our small groups together? Jeffrey, my friend Jeffrey, I know you're always paying attention, buddy. What the heck is going to happen in the next 15 minutes?
I was just thinking, I can't believe you're going to call on me. This looks like an incredibly complex task, I got to tell you, Troy, especially since I'm not a teacher. But it's thought-provoking. I was kind of imagining my role in whatever group forms as a somewhat more of an observer. But one thing that you didn't say in terms of the gamer, which, going back to my kids when they were younger, was also the idea of programming games, which you didn't mention, which I think is an important aspect of, for the gamer thing. Right. My son did learn a little bit of programming and built some very primitive games at one point. So,
great point. That gaming can involve a lot of producing creativity. And Jeffrey's illustrating a really important point. As you move into the small group breakout room, come as you are. Yeah. Come as you are. Yes. Right? When 5 people get in a small group breakout room, the first thing they have to do is introduce themselves to each other, because you're making a new friend or meeting somebody you've met before. And then there's always somebody who will function as a kind of timekeeper. It never fails that someone will ride herd on leading that discussion, go along with the journey on the ride and have a great conversation. We are using our imagination, as I understand it, Troy. We're imagining how these teenagers could have a deeper experience of media literacy through their creative work. Have I got that right?
That's right. Yeah. And I love this idea that Colin could be a programmer or a Discord streamer or any number of things. So
have use fun your imagination. The rooms are open. Now, listen, if you go into a breakout room and there's nobody there, just come back to the main room and I'll reassign you. Thumbs up if you understand what's happening now. I know you do. Have a great conversation. Make a new friend. Rooms are opening now. Oh, what a great dialogue we're going to have. Anybody need help entering a room? We've got 4 people in room 1, and we've got 5 people in room 2. We've got 5 people in room 3, 3 people in room 4, 4 people in room 5, 3 people in room 6, 4 people in room 7. We've got 3 people in room 8, 3 people in room 9, 3 people in room 10. Does anybody need help getting into a room? All right, cool. Troy, what do you suggest how much time we leave them go for? because they're going to need some time, and we got 20 minutes. We could use 20 minutes, right? Hey, Peggy George.
I'd say at least 15. And could I be made a co-host so I could like jump from?
For goodness sakes, what a great idea. Hold on here. Let me
Thanks.
do that. I should have done that way long time ago. Hold on here. Yeah, good idea. You jump from room to room and listen in. I am going to stay here in the main room and then pop in the same way with my microphone off and my sound off so I can listen in. And what do you say we close it at 25:35 at 12:50? Give us 10 minutes to reflect. Cool.
Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back. We'll hear from the rooms here in about another 36 seconds once the other breakouts get back in with us here in the main room. No worries, Maria. Glad you can still be with us and kind of listen in, even though we're all multitasking. We know how that goes. Same thing, Julie. All right, everybody will magically appear here in about 5 more seconds and we'll get going. All right, welcome back from your breakout rooms. I was so happy to be able to get into each room, at least for a few seconds there, and hear the conversations that were going on. As promised, I do want to share those Canva slides before I get going too far, and I'll drop them in the chat one more time before we go here at the top of the hour. Look at that, Renee, look at the timing, 10 rooms and 10 minutes. Here we go. All right, so room number 1. Would someone from room number 1 want to grab the microphone? And if you want to share screen, you can, or you can just start to read your letter you wrote to your teen, or you can just generally say something that you and your group talked about. So we have a representative from room number 1. We have Bob, Nusia, Paula, or Zan.
Okay, I'll grab the mic. Sure. We spend a lot of time thinking about these brief messages, thinking about our YouTuber and admiring their technical use of video and theatrical, musical, visual, miming, all of that. We had examples in mind of people we knew. And we talked about how asking them how other people could use their standout sort of like productions to help help their audience, get to know their audience and figure out what they might learn from them or how they might learn about standing out. I think I got that right. Anybody else want to jump in on that from my group?
I think I'll politely interject and say that sounds great. We're going to move right ahead to room number 2. So thanks, Anne. Appreciate that. All right, how about from room number 2? Anyone want to jump in and take the mic? Alexandra, Colleen, Lauren. I know Maria was slightly multitasking, or Mark.
What was one key idea that came up in your group that you think we should all hear?
We talked a little bit about when they're building their own identity. We kind of went back to that slide about how that's kind of when they're figuring out who they are. So one of the important things is going to be for them to really start to get to know themselves and figure out which part of themselves they're presenting and what the purpose of that is, because everybody is very complicated. And then that's going to go along with fitting in and standing out, but then also knowing that this isn't the only way to build identity, so that you don't also have to be putting yourself out there. But I think it's very brave to do that, because I would never make it I wouldn't choose to do that if I didn't have to.
Also, Lauren, you made such a good point too about kind of talking about author purpose, like making sure to call them out. You are an author. What is your purpose? Are you trying to entertain people? Are you trying to persuade them? Just like we spent all that time trying to get kids to think about what's the author purpose in the stuff that they're consuming. What's your purpose when you're creating stuff too? And that they have a purpose, and what is that? Because I think a lot of kids they're just doing it and they're not really stopping and thinking about that and kind of going, oh. So I thought you made a great point about that.
Thank you. And even with the best of intentions, I know we're not going to get through every room, but someone in room 6 just messaged me, and we'll have Larry jump in and take the microphone from room 6. And if anyone else wants to send me a private message, my group is ready to talk, let me know. But Larry, can you share your thoughts? not looking at all the participant lists, but Larry, if you're talking, you're still on mute.
Sorry, I was on mute.
No
Sorry about
problem. There you are. Welcome.
Yes. Yes, we also looked at the YouTuber. We did not get as far as group one did, I'm sorry to say. We kind of got into a discussion about, a lot of middle schoolers, when they look at YouTube, they want to have their job be a YouTube influencer when they grow up. And so we looked at fitting in, and that they kind of want influence, or but they're not sure what that means exactly. But they want to stand out. So we're thinking about, why do you want to have that influence, and talking to kids about the power and things that go into being an influencer, but also what's behind the scenes, pulling back the curtain and saying, look at all the money that they're getting from companies. But that company also influences what they can say. And so those kind of things. And so, like, building identity, that are they really independent as if they wanted to be an influencer, or do that kind of thing. But physiologically, kids this age are still developing. So looking at how much they would understand of that, we'd have to, again, work with them on pulling back that curtain. And a lot of adults don't understand that. They don't know the influences. They don't know the algorithms. They don't know the kind of things that are going on. So we didn't really get into the YouTuber as a developer, as a content developer or creator. I wish we had, but we just didn't get that far.
That's quite all right. I know I gave you an unreasonable task in a minuscule amount of time, and I appreciate you playing along. So thank you, Larry. Jeffrey was going to hop in from room 4 and take a quick moment to say something, and then we'll probably have one more comment from Sarab in room 8.
So we talked about TikTok, but actually I think the most interesting comments came when we were still evaluating the 4 of them, when we were talking about gaming, that there's the social aspect to that. William mentioned, sitting side by side on the couch, and we were kind of discussing how that happens. And also we talked about broadcasting games like Twitch, and also games like World of Warcraft have channels built in for social communication. So there's a very much can be a shared endeavor that teams work together. Somebody can become the leader of that team. So there's a whole social dynamic in that medium that is very different, I think, from the other choices.
Thank you so much. And Sarab, would you like to jump in for a moment?
Yes. Hi, everyone. So we had a very interesting discussion, and our topic was also YouTubers. And we mostly discussed what the group members presented. One idea I want to present from our group is that we are talking about the impact or the influence of comments, which YouTubers are getting in their comments part. And there is a fragility here, because a child or YouTuber can get, let's say, 100 positive comments from the viewers, but a single negative comment can have a huge negative impact on the child. So you can have lots of positive comments, but a single comment can destroy your psychology. So that's one topic we want to raise.
Yes, absolutely. That happens for us when we look at our teaching evaluations too. I know
and when we're grading at the end of the semester, something for us to keep in mind. Wow.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'll share for just a few moments more, and then I'll turn it back to you, Renee, for closing words. You have the slides. I put the little mini profiles here as well. I just borrowed those definitions from Wikipedia, so feel free to check those out. Here's a quick overview slide of the task. If you'd like to copy this and use it in your own context, that is the joy of working with the Media Education Lab, is that we share often, and I am more than happy to share this with you just let me know how it goes. I'd be curious to hear how this activity works for you and your colleagues in your own setting. And last but not least, I have to give a shout out to Slides Carnival because they have lots of things that I use all the time and they deserve a shout out too. So with that, thank you, Renee. Thanks to everybody for inviting me here to be part of the conversation today.
Let's give Troy a big round of applause. Troy, thank you so much for being part of our online learning community. And thank all of you, 54 people coming to have a dialogue about this topic. It's thrilling and we're so glad you're here. But here's the thing, we're coming back in 2 weeks to talk about high school students. High school students are next on the developmental trajectory. So please join us on Tuesday, December 13th. This will be our final program of the 2022 year. And then we'll pick it up in January when we're back in 2023. This is Across the Generations 4 with Adam Maxwell. So mark your calendar for that. And if you really are lonely and you really want to be in our online community, you can also join us for some other cool events that are happening December 5th with David Cooper Moore, rethinking the basics about digital literacy learning in public library spaces. So you've spent a whole hour with us at the Media Education Lab, and we are happy to have hosted this dialogue, and we hope to see you again. So let's wave goodbye. Thanks so much for being part of it. I'm Renee Hobbs, Media Education Lab. Hope to see you next time. Have a great day today, you guys. Bye-bye.
Well, before we close, Renee, let me drop the Canva link in one more time, just so people have that. Here's the.
Are there recordings of the previous sessions? Are there recordings? Just curious.
There absolutely are. All the recordings are available on the Media Education Lab's YouTube channel.
Oh, super. Thanks. I've been to 2. I missed the very first one. So
no worries. So happy you're having. I'm going to save this chat because the chat was just mind blowing. Really great to think more about. So thanks for being part of it. We'll see you again. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.